What do you think has been your most challenging area for you to develop, or the one that you are maybe the least developed in?
The most challenging, and it sounds funny from like a practice and business coach, but it was actually business, because my coach used to call me the king of wing, and it would just work out for me, and it was great. And then once I started to have my own practice with my own associates, I'm like, why can't they wing it as well? And then it was like, oh, because not everybody can just wing it.
Hello, and welcome to Build Your Remarkable Practice podcast. This podcast is dedicated to chiropractors who are in the seasons of launching and building their practice. Join myself, Dr. Lona, and my co-host, Dr. Bobby, as we have conversations each week as it relates to building the practice of your dreams. And remember, you can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. We're here to lead you on the way. All right, welcome back to the Build Your Remarkable Practice. I am here with Dr. Andrew Alekna. Welcome back. I hear you're feeling a little better.
I've got my warmest jacket on.
Yes, good. And sometimes we go through these winter spells where you got to like clean house. And I know you've been letting your innate intelligence run the show and do some remodeling on the inside.
Yeah, I think it's winter's a great time to remember that you're not perfect either. And if you push the envelope, your body is as prone to letting those issues grow and fester. I've got a high rocks race in a week and a half. I got 2 high rocks races in a week and a half. So I have been overtraining so that I'm in peak condition, and my body was like, just have a little break. So, but we're back. We're back in action.
That's great. All right. Well, I'm glad you're back. I was saying this to a mom in the practice yesterday whose daughter was also having some challenges. And I looked at her, I hadn't seen her in like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And I'm like, man, even though she's been down and out, according to mom, like she hasn't felt good. She's been laying on the couch, etc., a little fever. I think she grew like a half inch, like she looks tall. So I'm like, sometimes I feel like that's what's happening too, is like your body's just like, you need to reserve this energy right now for this other thing that's going on. And then boom, all of a sudden there's like a growth spurt. So maybe you're about to have a growth spurt, Andrew.
Just getting huge in the gym. I think the upward trajectory is past me now, but maybe the
Yes. Good. Good. All right. Well, today we are going to talk about something that's really important for all of us to keep our eye on, whether we're in this season of build and we're building our capacities in these 4 arenas, or we're helping with our associates and our team to build them. We're probably doing it both at the same time, if I'm really being honest. So, Andrew, what are these 4 things we're going to be talking about today?
They're the 4 sides of chiropractic. It's the art, the science, the philosophy, and the business acumen. And, we were talking before we started rolling about how much, we love chiropractic, but if you can't nail them, then all 4, then you're going to struggle. And it's really about knowing what you're doing, but loving what you're doing at the same time. At least I think if you can handle all 4 of those pillars of chiropractic, every day is a great day. Yeah. My neurology lecturer at university used to say, it's a great day to be, he was Canadian. It's a great day to be a chiropractor. And you know what? It actually really is if you choose to live in a way to make it so.
Yeah, I agree. And we were saying this beforehand, and I think when I look back on building my own philosophy and my art and my understanding of science, and then eventually really realizing I needed some business and some structure around all of this as, you're turning the dials. And now having the good fortune of having younger chiropractors on my team and wanting, at the same time I'm building those muscles, I want to make sure they're building those. It's like I could teach you what to say, or like give you a version of do it this way. And don't get me wrong, we do that. But if I don't teach you or help you teach yourself and find those things that resonate to get deeper on these 4 things, especially, if you're an associate listening, especially the science, the art and the philosophy piece, then it's going to be just so much harder. And Andrew, as you said, it's just like boring and not so much fun, right? But if we can like geek out for a while on just loving being the best chiropractor that you can be, first and foremost, that is going to be a solid foundation that you can build so much success off of. But if we skip that piece, what are we doing? What are we even doing? Right. So, whatever we're building then is probably not chiropractic. Now, it may be a business, but it's not built on the solid foundation that chiropractic has given us. And I think a lot of our students, a lot of our young docs, unfortunately, maybe haven't been exposed to a lot of it. So it's like you're going to have to go out and get it, right? And so that's part of what we want these next several podcasts to do for you, is help you find some of the training grounds where you can go pick up some of these elements. If you're like doing a little self audit and you're thinking, yeah, how is my philosophy? Could that get deeper? Is that kind of shaky some of the time? What is my philosophy? Or how is my art? Like, have I been to some technique seminars recently? Like, am I training? Am I actually delivering the goods? How do I know that I'm delivering the goods? And on, right? So let's take a little trip back through memory lane, Andrew, and just kind of give a quick little recap as we think about, for your trajectory of growth, like which one came first for you? And like, yeah, talk me through that a little bit.
I think, one thing, and this is like a solid brag for me, is I have I'm a great adjuster, and I love adjusting. It sometimes, like, we'll be shooting content for ads and that kind of stuff, and you can hear me with every adjustment be like, woo, like, when I nail an adjustment, I'm like, yeah, and I actually don't get sick of it.
That's awesome.
And the I think the great thing was for
Has it
me.
always been that way for you?
Yeah, it pretty much has. Obviously, like, there's different iterations of it,
Hmm.
but it was just something that I picked up. I probably shouldn't admit this, but I did my first neck adjustment in first year. I was dating somebody who was further along the
Right.
the studying pipeline, and they wanted an adjustment. I think they were in fifth year at the time, and I'm like, well, okay, can you show me how to do it? And um, so they set up, we were at home, and okay, so you set up, and then I did it, and I nailed it first go, and she was not impressed. Like, she was impressed that I got the adjustment, but this was something that she was struggling to get at
Yeah.
university. Here I am, a first year, just
Showing
straight
her
off
up.
the bat,
Yeah.
got it. And from where I am now to what was that, like 18, 19 years ago, is
Yeah.
very different in skill. But yeah, I've always been a confident adjuster, I guess. But I had to get so it wasn't the art that was an issue. That was the front end. I think everybody has a philosophical journey that they have to go on.
Hmm.
Um, and they have to have around that philosophy, they have to have a belief journey around that philosophy in themselves. So what I mean by that is, when I graduated, I knew that I was already a good adjuster. I remember adjusting a locum at the practice that I was first associating. First, that's
Hmm.
where I was raised, right? I was raised in that practice. Um, and he was an old chiropractor. He'd been around, and his greatest thing was, like, he was a great adjuster. And he asked me for an adjustment, and I just thumb move T1. Everybody knows that's a nightmare to adjust.
Yeah.
Bam, first go. And he turns around and he goes, you can adjust. And I was like, yeah. And, okay, so, like, here's the brag. I've been flown to the CrossFit Games to look after athletes, like professional athletes, across to the other side of the country, across the other side of the world. Been flown by Muay Thai fighters, world champion Muay Thai fighters, to look after them pre-flight. At the start of the year, I put a crew together. We looked after Ed Sheeran's, like, stage crew. So we were in the stadium adjusting them on, like,
That's
show
awesome.
day.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, it's my thing. I love adjusting people. But when I first graduated, I remember being like, okay, so philosophically, I know that chiropractic works. Outside of, like, the actual hands-on kapow,
Hmm.
does my version of chiropractic actually work?
Hmm.
Right? Because there's so much more to the philosophy of chiropractic than just the actual adjustment.
Right.
And my
Right.
my first boss, he used to say like, every adjustment's an energy exchange, and I had no idea what he was talking about.
Yes.
And now I'm like, man, he was right. Every adjustment's an energy exchange, and they show up for your energy, which you either transmit to them through actual hands on the body, or you transmit to them through love and empathy and care and just being in your presence, or a bit of both.
Yeah.
And, I don't actually know if that's philosophy or art or it's both sides of the coin, but
And I don't know. I think that's the great part about it is they all work together, right?
they do, right? Like that's why there's four pillars.
Yes.
So,
I want to unpack one thing you said there because I think you're making it simpler than it is because you naturally were already very athletic. Yes, coming into chiropractic.
yeah, I'd say I was a pretty fit and healthy guy coming
Yeah.
coming into chiropractic.
And so I think for someone that has struggled with their hands and the adjustment and the ability to do what is something that is, I think, quite an athletic career, right? If you're going to
Mhm,
be adjusting, certainly osseous adjusting, but any form of, there is this state within your own self that has to happen first, where you learn to be in your body and know how to like
mhm,
move your own system in a very dynamic way, right? So that you then can connect to someone else's dynamic system and do this thing called the art of chiropractic, right? So the
mhm.
adjustment, right? And so, like, do you think that's a huge part of why it came very natural to you? Or what do you think? Like, because
Uh,
I watch athletes and I think athletes certainly have a leg up on adjusting generally than
yeah, I think, now that you bring it up and you reflect on it, you're like, yeah, it makes perfect sense because I played a lot of sport growing up, and a lot of it required a lot of precision. So at high speed. So, like for those of you in the States, I played cricket. It's way cooler than baseball. But
You're
but
so
like
humble today, man. Wow, you are
But
humble today.
and I opened the bowling, so that means that I got the brand new ball. Like you put the best bowl. I wasn't so great at batting, but bowling, that was my thing. And I used to love running in and watching the batsmen get scared. I'd run in as fast as I could, and I would hurl that thing as fast as I could. And I was, noted for, all right speed, but like accuracy at that speed was,
Mhm.
a much higher currency. So I remember my dad would draw a square with chalk on the pitch and be like, you just make sure the ball bounces in that square. And so at like 10 and 11, I was just going. Phew, phew.
Yeah.
So you're right. The control at speed of knowing exactly where my hands are and exactly how they're releasing. Like what we're talking about is high speed adjusting, if we're manually adjusting, at like such a finite, precise like margin. And, now that you ask that, I think it certainly an athletic background or a sporting background absolutely made that easier to master a lot quicker.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what do you think has been your most challenging area for you to develop or the one that you are maybe the least developed in?
Most challenging, and it sounds funny from like a practice and business coach, but it was actually business because my coach used to call me the king of wing. So,
Wing it? Is that
like,
what
yeah, like
yeah.
I could just wing it, like I, and it would just work out for me, and it was great. And then once I started to have my own practice with my own associates, I'm like, why can't they wing it as well? And then it was like, oh, because like not everybody can just wing it.
Yeah.
So, I put
What's
this,
your top strength finders?
it's dominance and extroversion are my two.
Okay. Oh, wow.
So I like to win, like a
Yeah.
sporting background. But what's very interesting is empathy is like right behind my dominance.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's really not difficult for me to want to help a person
Yeah.
because that's one of my highest strengths. So it's a bit of
That's
a
awesome.
unique combination.
Mhm.
Yes, it's a very unique combination. If you look at like strength finder analysis, they're usually empathy and dominance are like
Opposite.
two completely polar opposites, but I have a little bit of a mix of both. And if you're listening along and you're like, well, I don't know, how would I even test that? There's a lot of great ones. We use a PDP and we've talked about this when we talked about hiring process. We use a PDP in practice. There's another great one called E-colors. Basically, like, have you seen that one? It
Mm-mm.
categorizes you into different color types.
Eek.
Red is dominant and competitive. Blue is empathetic. Yellow is extroverted.
So kind of like a
And
disc,
green is
maybe.
analytical. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a different version of it, and that one's free online.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's all sorts of great strength finders, and knowing your own strengths will probably indicate which ones uh, are your like weakest point. So I had to learn the business side of things, and I think as well, a lot of graduates kind of have to learn the business side of things as well because bless the academics, and we couldn't have graduates without people at university, but a lot of them are going into that role because practice was not super successful for them. And so I was really lucky. I had a couple of lecturers that were like, I killed it in practice. I'm great. I want to give back to the profession. But I also had a couple of lecturers that straight up told me,
Yeah.
I'm here because I couldn't provide for my family in practice.
Yeah.
And so business acumen is not something that people are graduating with. And it's hard to run a small business, especially in Australia. You get taxed in every direction,
Mm-hmm.
um, and and there's a lot of, especially right now, a lot of small businesses failing, and you can just accept that as a reality, or you can do what I did and look at the people who have done it really well. Like Dr. Frampton always says, success leaves clues. And instead of going like, oh, I suck at this and I'm just going to stay sucking at this and I'm going to eventually succumb to the reality of sucking at this, I looked at who has succeeded where I struggle and what can I do to, you know, pick their brain and learn from them. And that meant getting a coach, who's
Yep.
still my coach now. And it means that whenever I get a chance to talk to Steve, I'm like picking his brain. And like Bobby's such a marketing master. And if I ever get to sit down with Bobby, I'm picking his brain about marketing. The stuff that you're weak on, the pillar that you're weak on, I guess this is probably if you're auditing yourself and you're going, I'm not very good at this.
Mm.
Just pick somebody that's really good at this
Amen.
and just ask them. Ask them for help.
Show up where they
Uh,
are. Listen, get in the room.
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just like I said, I love the phrase success leaves clues because there are people that can do it and you can actually learn from them. It's great. Amazing, right?
So good. Yeah. And that's why, we said offline that we wanted to do these episodes because if we can help you refine some of, what we would consider the foundation, now we can build off the top of that. Right. And
Mhm.
so this is one of those like, don't pass go, don't collect your $200. Like, let's stay here for a little bit because if we can deep dive, on some of the things that we'd encourage you to do to build your philosophy or to build your trust in your hands and your ability to deliver, or to get deeper into understanding, like, yeah, how does science support these two other art and philosophies? And of course, if you own the practice, but even if you don't, a better understanding of how the delivery system of chiropractic, if you're working for a business or you own a business, you certainly need to have the structures in place so that business can grow. And I think it's Dr. Franson that says like the natural state of a healthy business is growth, right? And that for me was one of those like phew, light bulb things because I already had the philosophy of like, yeah, the natural state of the human body is health, right? Like
Health,
if we're
right?
in alignment, like we should be expressing health because that's what innate intelligence does is 100% all the time. But when I think about my business, where's the subluxations, right? Like where are
Mhm.
we not correcting what needs to be corrected so that it can grow and thrive, and that for a lot of us, we've had seasons where that is not what's happening in our business. And so that's again where we can just say, oh, well, this is just how it's going to be. Or we can actually like get the coaching, get the mentorship we need to understand business better. Because I think that is one of the weaker legs collectively we have in chiropractic is that we are
Mhm.
like you, Andrew, like there's more of us who are people wired, want to help people, empathetic, love just the human to human piece of chiropractic, but the like left brain structural, like put the like procedure in place, know the numbers, like that is, oh, wildly, I don't have time for that. Like, oh, I guess
Yeah. I don't
tomorrow
love it, so I
maybe.
don't have time for it. But, you have to force yourself, and now I would say that, like, we have probably one of the most systematized practices in our local area,
Yeah.
and that's because I went, "This is a weak point, and I'm gonna actually learn how to do this better."
Yes.
And I'm gonna
Yeah.
force myself to do it better.
Right. And
Um,
it's like our art too, where like, okay, you come out of school and you're like, oh, like you did, where you're like, oh, I'm pretty good at this. And then now here you are 15, 20 years later, and you're like, my capacity to deliver the goods is so much greater than when I thought I was already good at it. Right. And I think the
mhm,
same is true in business where, like there is a level of success and then you realize like I am a tiny fish in a pond of business people. Like there's so much more I could learn about doing my practice successfully, and that's also part of why we encourage you to stay connected to TRP, get to immersions, because I have to say it's one of the most successful rooms I've ever sat in chiropractic, like the level of conversation happening about business and how to set up your
mhm,
chiropractic practice. So if that is one of the things where when you reflect on these four areas and if you're like, yeah, my business piece is one of my weaker pieces, like come to an immersion, get exposed. My first time sitting in an immersion room, I realized I thought I knew something. And then I got in that room and I was like, ooh, I don't know what they're talking about. There's probably a lot of meat on the bone that I don't even understand as it relates to setting up my practice in a way that could build greater than I had thought of before. So
yeah,
yeah.
and now here we are coaching
Yeah.
because it actually worked for us.
Right.
And you're like, "Oh," the empathy side is like, "Oh my God, I wanna help
Yeah.
all these young chiropractors that are like, well, Andrew, how do I deliver a day one or a report of findings? How do I keep a patient engaged? How do I educate them? What do I say? What do I do?" None of that's taught at university. You know, how do I run a business? No, that's not taught at university, or
Right.
if it is, it's not taught well. How just call a spade on that one, right? And even like, yeah, the science is taught at a college or university, but framing the science to actually communicate it to patients so it's meaningful rather than just like, I don't know what you just said,
Right.
is in and of itself an art form.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so,
So it's so true. Yeah, that's yes, like the art of delivering the adjustment, and then possibly even more difficult is the art of delivering the communication around what we want them to see and feel and learn and hear about chiropractic. Right.
and I would actually, again, that's something that I really pride myself on is
Yeah.
going like, yeah, is communicating well.
Mhm.
And really like that's at least 50% of an adjustment is the
Yeah.
communication.
Yeah. So good. All right. Well, so next time, which one are we going to do next time? What do you think?
Let's have some fun with the art. Let's get excited about it. Let's get fully geeked out and just go, how good is adjusting people?
So ready.
Yeah, this is going to be a really fun 4 weeks. And so, guys, like if you're listening along at home and you're like, well, how do I audit? I'd say, in terms of the art, if somebody comes in and they go, every chiropractor I've seen says I'm difficult to adjust. Is
Hmm.
your certainty enough? Like, whatever, man, I'm gonna rock your world? Or is it like, oh crap, I'm gonna really struggle with that?
Yep.
Is, if you're like, how do I audit my philosophy? If a GP came to you and said, you
Mm,
know, or a patient came to you and was like, GP said I shouldn't get adjusted, or a GP or MD came to you and was like, you chiropractors are a bunch of clowns or whatever. How solid are you to be able to be like, whatever, man? No, we're not. And then audit that on the science. How solid are you to be able to say to them, well, actually, XYZ, here's the research, bam, bam, bam. And then I guess the audit your business, whether you're an associate or not, is, are you generating the income that you want to be able to generate? Are you stressing about the lights staying on? And is your practice or your practice inside of the practice, if you're an associate, is that
growing.
is that growing?
Yeah.
Right? Because that's the natural state.
Yeah.
Right? There's bam, that's the 4 audit points, right?
Well, I get. All right. We'll be back together next week. I'll see you then.
Let's go.
Hey everyone, please listen in for this next bonus interview of one of our remarkable success partners. They all help us help more people find the benefits of chiropractic. So listen on.
Welcome back to the Remarkable Practice Success Partner podcast. And today I have someone very special with us. We have John from Next Healthcare, and they are the leading radiology group in Australia and with chiropractors. So, John, it is so great to meet you. Would you like to give a bit of an introduction about yourself?
Thank you, Dr. Oz. Pleasure. Thank you for the introduction. My name is John Conidi. I'm an accountant by trade, but I've been in radiology for 25 years. Started a very successful business in Melbourne called Capital Radiology that went Australia-wide and was publicly listed and now been taken over by another group called IDX. Since my departure many years ago, I decided to be a bit more specific in radiology, and we developed Next Healthcare was the next iteration. And Next Healthcare predominantly does radiology reporting services with chiropractors. And we partner with chiropractors to ensure that we get very good outcomes for them, but also their patients.
Love it. So, you mentioned like helping chiropractors, partnering up with chiropractors. So, let's say that I put an X-ray machine into my business. What specific problems can you help solve for us?
As we know, most chiropractors will take an X-ray first time up for a new patient. If you write a referral and the patient has to leave your practice, the chances are they're not going to come back. Okay. And if they do come back, it may be a week or 2 weeks before you get the films and the report back. That's a delay in management and a delay in that customer touch point, which is really important to ensure that they actually keep coming back, right? So a one-off visit, it's not really enough. You really want to get a patient in there for at least, I just saw a chiropractor myself, someone who does the CBP, okay? It does a 12-week consultation. I know how important it is to go there consistently over a period of time. 1 or 2 visits isn't enough. Radiology is one of those mechanisms, one of those tools which enables you to articulate the patient's problems immediately and be on the process or a pathway of a management plan. Right. Where we come into it is, unfortunately, radiology has an unintended consequence, right? So you can't just say as a chiropractor, I'm going to take a full spine X-ray, but all I want to see is basically the vertebrae. Exclude the lungs, exclude all the soft tissues. It doesn't work that way, mate. And that's the problem that exists, is that when you take that image, you own it medico-legally. And we get so many situations where there's pathology, okay, that a chiropractor wouldn't necessarily see. And that's the unintended consequence of getting a chiropractic X-ray. When we come in is that we actually alleviate that problem. Once you send us the film, the risk goes from you to our radiologist in effect. So that's the benefit.
So let's say we get on board. What return of investment can chiropractors expect working with you?
Yeah. So the way we work is that we're a partnership model. So we partner with our chiropractors and we share the returns or the profit. So basically all our reports are Medicare compliant. The fees that we generate, we enter in what we call a service level agreement with our partners, where we enter into a profit share in effect. The way we do it has been so Medicare has approved our model. Okay. So I have no issue. Or people can say, well, you can't give money back. Well, you can if you structure it correctly. If you read the Medicare Act, it actually says a profit distribution is what they call a permitted benefit. Okay. Now, it depends how you structure it. Medicare has checked over our agreement and given us the all tick. So we've got a letter from Medicare saying, you know what, you guys are good to go. There's nothing that obviously the government can change regulations and legislation anytime they want, but as of today, it's fine. We normally remit back to our partners within 5 business days at the end of the month. So let's take May, for example. May will end on Friday. By next Friday, next week, our partners will get their profit share. Okay. But in terms of, so one of the things that the partners are still able to do, so Medicare pays for 2 things. It pays for the acquisition of the scan, and it also pays for the radiologist report. A chiropractor can still charge a patient for an interpretation fee. So there's nothing wrong with that. You just can't charge the patient for the acquisition. Okay. So you'll be very, very specific. There's nothing stopping you from charging the patient for your time and effort in communicating with them the results of that x-ray. Okay. So your own interpretation, but also including the interpretation of the radiologist. So there's a financial benefit there. If you look at a machine cost, it's not crazy expensive. You're probably looking at all in, once you do works and all the rest of it, it's probably about anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000. That's the cost of the machine. And it all comes down to volume. How many do you do? We've had some of our clients that have paid back the machine within 4 months, some 6 months, some 8 months, right? It's really a function of volume. If you're doing 10 a week, which is 2 a day, you should seriously consider getting your own x-ray machine. Because not only does that, what that does is it actually heightens your probability of getting more new work because of it, okay? Do not discount the marketing angle of having an in-house x-ray machine.
Love it.
Very, very important. It's not 5 years payback, okay? It's not that at all. It's actually relatively quick. Well, one of the things as well as chiropractors probably don't know or do know is that you can also refer other parts of the body apart from your spine and your shoulder. You can do shoulders, you can do knees, you can do feet as well, okay? So there's no reason why you can't attach a right knee or a left knee or bilateral knees with that full spine x-ray. If at the end of the day, everything has to be based on a very simple concept, is that it has to be justifiable, okay? It has to be medically justified. You just don't do it willy-nilly because you're exposing radiation to someone, right? And governments have high penalties in relation to doing that without the clinical justification for it. One of the other benefits that we provide as well that I probably don't talk about enough is that we also help you get your patient immediate access to MRI at bulk billing, okay? So unfortunately, the Medicare system is based on hierarchy. The government rates you based on your qualification. Okay? At the top of the tree is specialists, then dental practitioners, and then you'll see your dentist, allied healthcare. And depending where you sit on that ladder, it's government gives you referral rates. So because radiologists are specialists, they have the ability to write MRI referrals. So through our Best Scan product or Best Scan service, because in some of the reports, so what will happen is when you get a report back from a radiologist, there'll be some recommendations sometimes. And sometimes the recommendation is a CT scan. Sometimes it's maybe a joint injection or an MRI. At the moment, for you to give the patient the pathway to that test, you would have to go through a general practitioner. Okay. So me being the example, I am 53 years old. Unfortunately, once I turn 50, a GP can't refer me for an MRI anymore and get bulk billed. I have to be referred to a specialist. So think about it. If I come to you, Dr. Oz, and you say, John, there's something not right with your knee, you need an MRI. You can either go to the clinic and pay $300 or $400 out of pocket, or then you send me to a GP. The GP says, well, John, sorry, you're 53, mate. You don't meet the criteria. He's got to send me then to a specialist, which is another $400 maybe, and wait 4 weeks for an appointment, who then sends me to the radiology. And then I have to go back to the specialist for the report, another $400. So in our case, you have the capability of writing an MRI referral. You know whether that patient is MRI or not. If your notes are clinically justifiable, they have the right reason. You can't just say MRI of the knee. There's got to be a reason, right? It could be ACL or whatever, torn ligament. The radiologist or one of our specialists will look at it, orthopedic surgeon, and they will say, yeah, I agree with you. They put their name on the referral. So that person now can take that referral to a radiology clinic and get that bulk billed. So again, we're shortening this patient care. It's instead of taking 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, you can get an outcome within a week.
Thank you. So what would be the best way to get in touch with you now?
Well, simply just visit the website. It's called nexthc.com.au. On there, there's a contact details for Donna Hobbs. Donna's details are there. So her email address is donna@nexthc.com.au. Her phone number's on there as well. Speak to Donna. Donna is I've got to be polite, but I'll use the word veteran. She's been in radiology and the chiropractic space for a long time. So nexthc.com.au and just contact Donna. One of the things is I want to give you an insight into the future, and one of the things that we're doing that will hopefully come to market sooner or later. And it really relates to AI. Okay. So one of the things that exists now is we will get a substantial inflow of work coming in on a daily basis. And you're relying on a radial, and it's basically reported on first in, first served, unless it's marked urgent. Where our AI comes in, AI has the capability of triaging, right? So we're building an AI model that is not providing a diagnostic report, but is flagging adverse findings. Okay. So he thinks that there could be a problem here. So what that does is that will usurp that patient to on top of the list instead of it being on a date or time-based stamp, right? So it's very important. So we're trying to get optimal patient outcomes immediately. And you don't know what's urgent or what's not by just looking at a patient's name, right? But AI does have the capability now of being able to determine, it can see something that we train it. So it's trained, right? This is a complex model and we're able to do this purely because we have hundreds of thousands of chiropractic spines in our database. So we're getting to the point now where we're still testing it. Hopefully towards the end of the year, we'll use this internally to triage. It's not there to do radiology reporting. It's still done by a human. But what it's there to do is to highlight a patient that requires immediate attention, potentially requires immediate attention. Okay. That means your patient, you'll know today, instead of probably 3 or 4 days on the track, that patient needs something.
So much, John. Thank you. Thank you so much for jumping on today and sharing it. So guys, if you want to get in touch with John, he's already linked the website. I'm going to also make sure it's on the podcast so you can click on the link as well. It'll be in the description. So make sure you check him out and work with Next Healthcare because they're game changing. John, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Graz. I'll see you soon. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Build Your Remarkable Practice podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like the podcast, please subscribe, share with your friends, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, please click the links in the show notes to schedule a call.